this will be the only video you will need when traveling to Vietnam. Having the experience that we have and the immense research that we have done, I believe that we are able to share with you what you can do, what you can expect, and what you need to know when coming to Vietnam. What we'll be sharing with you may differ from city to city, but majority of these can apply across the entire country. So without further ado, let's begin this video. So starting off with flights, if you are flying from overseas, you'll probably be flying into this airport, Noi Bai, if you are visiting Hanoi. Flights will differ as many of you guys watching the video comes from different parts of the world. But if you're coming from Singapore, expect flights to be about 150 to 270 to Hanoi and about 120 to 180 to Ho Chi Minh without check-in bags. Our recent flight from Singapore to Hanoi via Singapore Airlines was about $380 with check-in bag, and it was during the lunar period and it's SQ. But if you're wondering what is inside Noi Bai International Airport, it does have a couple of stores and restaurants that sells food and souvenirs, but we don't really recommend buying them. The next thing, visa. Another thing that you may need to double check is whether or not you need a visa to come to Vietnam. Yes, Vietnam may look like an easy country to enter, but better to be safe than sorry. And luckily for us, Singaporeans do not need a visa to enter Vietnam, and we have a maximum stay of up to 30 days. But here's a list of countries that do not need any form of visa to enter Vietnam. As for accommodations, apart from the hotel reviews that we have done here in Vietnam, which you can check it out here, how we usually book our accoms is through Facebook. Yes, Facebook is a very unconventional method when you're traveling because majority of the business here use Facebook as their means of marketing, and by doing so, they're able to skip a lot of middleman fees such as Booking.com, Traveloka, and Agoda. But these fees vary from season to season, so like we are traveling now during the Lunar New Year period. But with that being said, do remember to compare the Facebook rates with third-party website rates because sometimes third-party rates might be even cheaper as well. And I think that if you're going to book a hotel through their Facebook, they sometimes offer dining or spa discounts on their Facebook page. And from our personal experience traveling through Vietnam, most of our accommodations booked through Facebook are the cheapest. Since my wife is Hanoian and we are both physically and emotionally attracted to Hanoi, we're going to talk more about Hanoi rather than other cities. But if you're keen to find out where to stay in other cities in Vietnam, do comment down below and we will see whether people would want to know, then we will create a video. If not, we'll just reply to your comment lah. But first, we're going to explain the maps of Hanoi city center. The main area is Old Quarter. There's also West Lake,
Tây Hồ,
and
Hai Bà Trưng,
which are situated in Hanoi city center. And if you're visiting Hanoi for the very first time, it's most recommended for you to stay in Old Quarter because it's the most convenient location out of everything. You are able to find food, you're able to visit places, you're able to do shopping, and most importantly, you are able to travel out of Hanoi. And we'll talk more about this in the next episode. Looking at the map of Old Quarter, the central area surrounds the lake called Quan Kiem Lake, where the majority of the exciting things are held. Over here is the midnight market of Old Quarter, and this road closes on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. And the roads around the lake will close from Saturday to Sunday every week. So if you're gonna get a Grab to or from your hotel, it may be very difficult. And some drivers will even ask you to get down on the outskirts of Old Quarter and walk. Our recommendation is to stay on the outskirts of Old Quarter as highlighted on the maps here. We have two upcoming videos, one that features a boutique hotel on the outskirts of Old Quarter, which is one that we can definitely recommend, and another luxury hotel located at Westlake, which I think it's one of the better hotels here in Hanoi. We also have another two hotel reviews in Old Quarter, one being a luxury one and the other one is a luxury boutique, which you can check it out here. Card or cash? In Vietnam, the majority of the stores here prefer cash or bank transfer, and if you're a foreigner, you probably do not have a bank account here in Vietnam, so bring loads of cash, literally, because their biggest note is 500,000 and their smallest note is 1,000. They do have hundreds over here, but it's only in digital currency. So if you were to use paper currency, they will not give you cash. They will actually round up to a nearest 1,000 to give you change. So one example I want to give you is that if you were to purchase an item that costs 50,700 dong, they will probably expect a change of 51,000 dong. So that 300 is out of magic. It's a magician. So I have seen travelers coming to Vietnam where they have change, they gave 500,000 dong instead of 20,000 dong. So it's a really huge difference. One is 30 Sing dollars and the other is $1.20. So do take note, these two especially look almost the same. And at this moment of filming this video, which is January 2023, 1 Sing dollars equals to 17,700 dong, which is considered decent rate. And for a more universal dollar, a USD equals to 23,000 dong. So if you manage to find a better rate than what I have mentioned, go ahead to exchange in your local exchange currency. If not, you can come to this specific street called
Hà Trung.
Apparently, it offers the best exchange rate here in Hanoi, Vietnam. And along this street itself has multiple local currency exchange, so you can walk along the street and ask for the rates. Alternatively, if you want a very safe option, you can go to the banks, but the rate wise might not be the best, so do take note of that. If you're going to Ho Chi Minh instead, it's said by the locals that this specific local currency outside Bentang market offers the best exchange rate. And even from my experience going to Ho Chi Minh twice, we exchanged money there twice, it did offer the best rate at that moment in time, so go and check that out. Here's the address and here is the picture, so you all can go and check it out. So just to give you a rough idea of how much a meal costs in Vietnam, Hanoi, it costs roughly about 50,000 dong, which is really cheap, which is equivalent to only about $3. And if you are a couple coming here and estimate one being a big eater and one being a small eater, will roughly range from about 300,000 to 500,000 dong, which is considered a very comfortable level of eating. And if you are eating at stores that are on small chairs like this, it can be a lot cheaper, and the bread that we just ate is only about 30,000 dong, which is only about $2, so very cheap. So a rough estimate you can bring for a 4-day 3-night trip to Hanoi is an estimate of about 200 Sing dollars, which is equivalent to 3.5 million dong. Which is basically you can buy like 300 of the bread. Getting around Vietnam, Hanoi is relatively easy. They have public transport like buses, which are kings of the road. They also have MRTs in limited parts of Hanoi. There are also taxis and the ever famous Grab bikes. And if you are talking about intercity traveling, it consists of domestic flights or overnight buses. Overnight buses are the best option because it's a lot cheaper, but it's a lot longer compared to flights. So for example, flying to Dalat from Ho Chi Minh is only 2 hours, but if taking an overnight bus is almost 6 hours. Apart from that, Vietnam's railway is very extensive. It runs from the south Ho Chi Minh all the way to the north Lao Cai, which is near Sapa. Trains are a lot safer compared to buses because sometimes the buses get a little bit sleepy or they could not see the road ahead, or perhaps there's a pothole in the road which they did not see. And if you were to ask us, our personal choice of traveling around Vietnam is to have a Grab taxi or a personal driver. And if you watch our video at Dalat or Ninh Binh, we did have a personal driver driving us around. And here in Vietnam, we actually take a lot of Grab taxis. But yeah, those don't really prefer me to take Grab bike because it's really dangerous. And as for public transport, buses here in Hanoi, even the Hanoian don't prefer to take it because it doesn't really stop at the bus stop. It slowly moves and you have to get on it. But I have seen travelers take it, so it might not be that difficult. But apart from Grab and their traditional taxi call center, they also do have Gojek and also have their own local app called Bay. Here's the logo. You can pronounce it however you want, but it works similarly like Grab, so you can book your cab or you can even order food from there. However, for the app itself, you do require a Vietnam number to register, so do take note of that. But if you're going to get a SIM card, you will have already gotten a Vietnam phone number, which leads us to our next point, SIM cards. So for SIM cards, you can actually purchase them at the airport itself for the easiest convenience. However, you are able to purchase them in the city center as well, any random store that sells SIM card or SIM card. There's nothing particularly to be worried about, but just beware of the amount of coverage that you have and the quality, because I just gotten mine again and it literally says LTE, and when I researched what's LTE, LTE is literally between 3G and 4G, 3.5G. And talking about the average prices of SIM card here in Hanoi, a 7-day unlimited data costs 200,000 dong. A 30-day with 100 gigs of data costs 300,000 dong. Also do take note there are 3 main carriers here in Vietnam called Vinaphone, Viettel and Mobile Phone. You can find multiple stores across the airport itself. Do remember to compare the prices because it may vary from plans to plans. Where we get our SIM cards from are usually from the airport itself because it's the most convenient for us to book our Grabs to the city center. The next thing you need to take note is the weather. Yes, correct, the weather. Vietnam does have 4 seasons and it's a relatively long country of 1,650 kilometers, so the north and the south temperatures may vary a little bit.
Or a lot.
So the northern half of Vietnam follows the European American seasons, where the spring is from February to April, summer is from April to August, autumn is from September to November, winter is from December to February. And we are filming this in January right now, so it's a little bit cooling, but we are not in winter clothes because we are indoors. But here are a couple of scenes that we have shot outdoors that is quite cool. During winter in Vietnam, it can generally get quite cold, especially in the northern areas, and in Hanoi it can actually go below 10 degrees and even lower in the northern Sapa mountainous areas. Some even say below -3 degrees, and sometimes even ice and snow can be found within those areas. As for the central areas, it ranges from 10 to 20 degrees. As for South Vietnam, it ranges from 20 to 30 degrees, which is a very chilly weather for you to wear a hoodie and chillax. And summer here in Vietnam gets really hot, up to even 42 degrees. We were actually here last summer having our second wedding, and it was super duper hot. It's basically like you're walking in a sauna. So that's all I can explain about summer and winter for Vietnam, because I haven't personally experienced spring and autumn. But what the actual Hanoians said is that autumn is the best time to visit Hanoi, Vietnam, because it's cooling and it's dry and it's super pleasant time to visit. However, for spring, it's just rain and more rain. And the floors here, when it rains, right, it just gets black. So yeah, it drizzles most of the time and it gets really humid. And the next thing you should take note when coming to Vietnam is crossing streets. So I've actually done a short IG reel, which you can check it out here or the link below. So if you haven't followed me there, go ahead and follow. So basically this video is about me getting to Rose's house. It's not as easy as it seems, like crossing a traffic light in Singapore. You watch the IG reel for yourself lah. So yes, crossing streets in Hanoi, Vietnam may not be the easiest, but I can say the same for the entirety of Vietnam. Step 1, to check for oncoming vehicles at fast pace. If there's none, just keep walking. There are many motorbikes here, but the motorbikes here will avoid you when you are crossing the street. One thing to take note is that do not make sudden stop, because if you were to stop, they cannot predict whether you are moving forward or stopping, so they may potentially hit you. So step 2 is to just keep walking and look out for vehicles. Step 3. If you are too scared, just raise up your hand as a sign to ask them to slow down, and they will slow down and swerve around you. Easier said than done, but extremely doable. So as for food, you want to find out what Hanoi has to offer. We have done 2 videos. One is an entire food eating tour, and the other is actually top 5 food exotic in Hanoi. But I do have to highlight that right behind me is the best spring roll in Hanoi, in my opinion lah. So the second small thing that you should take note is charging adapters. So over here, I would say a good 40 to 50% of the places provide plugs that support all the world's plugs. But just in case, do bring an adapter, and what they use is the 2 straight lines. So here's a picture for reference. And all the hotels that we have stayed so far actually did provide those kind of plugs, which is really helpful, so we did not need to bring an adapter. And what I found really useful on this website called the Travel Intern is that they provide this picture diagram for each country that they visited, the types of plugs that each country uses. So cafe is a huge thing here, and that's why Starbucks didn't really succeed. There were too many competitors, but you can find cafes at every corner of the streets here. And basically every Vietnamese pastime is sitting at a cafe, people watching and sipping on a cup of coffee. So often you'll see people on the side of the road just drinking coffee, just looking at you or looking at everything else and enjoying life. For tipping wise, there are no tipping culture here in Vietnam, but if you feel rich, you can just give lah, and they will gladly take it. But as previously mentioned, in the cash portion, they do not give change in the hundreds, so they will basically round up every time you purchase something that has a hundreds in between. So you can consider that a tip, maybe. So don't know whether y'all can hear that, but it's basically horns and horns. They use horns everywhere and anywhere. Okay lah, basically not anywhere lah. They use horns, you see what I mean? Basically, they use horns to notify you that they are behind or they are approaching. Not to say that they are angry, but unlike Singaporean motorists, you know, horns means they are angry. But over here, it's just to notify you lah. And another thing that when you cross the road, they actually slow down. Unlike Singaporean motorists again, they will actually speed up. So if you come here, you get horn, don't worry about it. And the last point we want to highlight is that you need to be flexible when coming to Vietnam. And what do I mean flexible? What happened to us is that when we were at the hotel checking in, apparently our booking wasn't in the system itself. We already paid money, we already did everything through Agoda, and then no hotel for that night. And if that ever happens to you, do not worry, because there are multiple accommodations in Old Quarter that you can get. And some of the behind the scenes things that you did not see before on this channel is that we actually booked some of the hotels on the day itself in Vietnam. So it's definitely doable and it's very okay and safe. Another thing that happened to us is that on another occasion when we booked a hotel, when we were there at the front desk, they told us somebody was sick and extended their stay, which means our room wasn't available. What they did was they moved us to another hotel which was under their chain boutique hotel as well. And luckily for us, it was nearby. They even helped with the transportation of our luggages and offer us bike rides to the other hotel. Though it can be very troublesome, but you have to be flexible.
Be water, my friend.
With that being said, this is part 1 of our Vietnam travel series guide and things you should take note when coming to Vietnam. If you have any other special tips and tricks that we don't even know about, do comment down below so that others can find out as well. And if you have any other questions about Vietnam or how to travel Vietnam or any other questions under the sun, feel free to comment down below and we will answer to the best of our abilities. So this is the end of this video. We hope you found this video helpful one way or another. If you like this video, remember to like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you all guys in the next video, which is probably next week lah. Bye!